Hi, this is James Joke. I'm host of Webcomics Reviews and Interviews. Today, we're fighting the imposter complex. So sit back, relax, and let the Geek Fest begin. All writers, no matter how good or bad we are, tend to go through one phase where we think we're basically some sort of imposter. It sort of feels like we're an alien who's been sent here to record the human race and to figure out exactly what the human condition is all about. And because of that, well, we're fully expecting somebody to come over to us and rip off our rubber mask and expose us for the alien that we are. And the problem is, like I said, we all go through this, and it makes perfect sense. That is, writers will always be that person who's on the outside looking in. That's just part of who we are. That's part of our very nature. We're basically trying to find all these really cool little grains of reality, and the only way we can do that is by basically looking in. We can be part of the humanity, but at the same time, we have to maintain a certain level of objectivity. It's sort of fun when you start looking at a lot of the really great writing that there's a certain level of, balance about it. That is, no matter how heroic the people were portrayed as, the best heroes have some sort of major flaws. Conversely, when you start looking at the major villains in literature, they were pretty much all the way there. And whenever they were, the best villains had some sort of heroic feature about them that nonetheless tended to overpower them. Consider, if you will, the difference between, say, Odysseus and Darth Vader. Yeah, I know, a little bit stretched, but stick with me here. Odysseus was a great person. He was loyal, He was able to maintain a love for his wife over 20 years with absolutely no question that that's who he wanted to spend the rest of his life with and who he was waiting to get back to. At no point did he actually have any kind of dalliance along that line. But for all of his loyalty, for all of his love, for all of his leadership capabilities, and for all of his problem-solving capabilities, he still had some serious issues when it came to straight, good old-fashioned ego. Every time he screwed up, it was because his hubris, his arrogance got in the way of making the right decision. So even though we recognize Odysseus as arguably one of the greatest heroes, we have, the Odyssey is a part of our actual language when it comes to undertaking a great quest. At the same time, he's got some definite flaws. Conversely, Darth Vader, in other contexts, would be a hero. He's honorable. He does what he wants because of the love of those around him. And there's no question that he's definitely somebody who's there to make sure things get done. All of these are normally admirable qualities. However, whereas Odysseus recognized that he had his arrogance to overcome, Darth Vader fully embraces that. And that's a lot of what defines Vader. Whenever he gets mad, it's because somebody just called him out on something. Anytime he does pretty much anything he does, if he wants to show off what he can do, he'll walk into battle, regardless of how intelligent or stupid it is, just to show that he's the best pilot around. And the problem is that whereas for a regular person, they have no problem looking at the hero, or the villain, they have a problem looking at the other side of that coin. That is, what makes a hero heroic and at the same time just a regular human versus looking at a villain and what makes a villain actually villainous, but what also makes that villain somebody you basically wouldn't mind going to a bar and grabbing a couple of drinks with. Because of that necessary perspective, that is, where we're basically looking at things as they are, or at least what we perceive them to be, well, because we recognize we have a very different perspective on things than an average person. That is, we recognize the good and the bad in a person, even as we tend to look at them overall. And most people don't do that. They tend to look at people as either heroic or as villains, and there's no real crossover. And that's sort of what sets us apart. At the same time, because we recognize that difference. That is, we're looking at the person overall versus just part of what the person is. obviously we've got to be some sort of different race, because we're obviously not looking at it the same way everybody else is, right? We're looking at it from an alien perspective. And because of that, we obviously are aliens ourselves. So, all I'm saying is that when you're a writer, recognize that part of what makes you human is that you're curious. You're trying to figure things out. And you just tend to look at it from a different perspective, but that's because that's what makes you a writer. That different perspective, that need to find the good in villains and the bad in heroes, is just part of what makes us us. And humanity needs that, and it doesn't make us any less human, it just gives us a different perspective on things. So just recognize that, yeah, we have a different perspective than a lot of other people, but it doesn't necessarily make us aliens. It doesn't make us imposters. It just makes us better at what we do. So keep that in mind next time you're going through the imposter syndrome, and I think you'll find it's easily something you can fight off relatively easier. Have a good night. I'll talk to you later.